This is something I normally would I would allow to cook for a little bit, but it is absolutely something we need after these last two videos. No, not Scott's. Scott's only came out 7 hours ago. That one I'm letting cook. That one's too soon. No. Chat. We're gonna check out Nick's video about Coke. And from what I understood from the little bit that I saw on the Unsubbed podcast before I stopped because I did not want spoilers, this goes crazy. This story, apparently, Nick gets fired the fuck up about this, apparently. And this story goes off the fucking rails. So that's all I know about it because Nick started to talk about it on the Unsub podcast when I was watching it today. And I skipped through it because I did not want spoilers for this video. So already Nick has kind of hyped this up and I am all into this. This is going to be a great way to finish off the night. So chat, let's fucking go.
You know it's going to be a good video when I am legitimately worried about getting sued. Today we're talking about the biggest, most successful psyop of all time when a Confederate colonel got wounded on the battlefield, got addicted to morphine, so in order to overcome his morphine addiction, created a new medication made out of wine, caffeine, and cocaine that he would later market as a soft drink that would become the most popular soda of all time, Coca-Cola. I can feel...
Holy fuck! Okay, he was not lying. This is already going fucking hard. Hey, this is going to be fucking beautiful. I already love this, and we're only 20 seconds into the intro.
Soft drink that would become the most popular soda of all time, Coca-Cola. I can feel the cease and desist already, but we're going to get into it right after a word from our sponsor.
Delete me.
What?
Hang on. Okay, this is too fucking adorable. I must move myself and you guys either way. This is too fucking adorable right now. Hang on.
Get into it right after a word from our sponsor.
Delete me.
What are you wearing?
You don't like it?
I mean, it's cute. You've been watching way too much Hell on Wheels, though.
Well, I like their style, and I like the way they dress. I actually got you this hat. So you can come follow me.
What is happening right now?
Do you want to watch me churn butter or not?
Hey!
I gotta go. I'll be back in a fortnight. Anyways, delete me. Biggest sponsor of the channel. You guys know the deal by now. You give them money, they make sure the data brokers on the internet are not selling your personal information.
Yes,
these data brokers
I
are legally required to stop selling your information if you ask them to the right way. Unfortunately, each data broker has a different right way. And Delete Me knows all of them. Not only do they go and they get all that information taken down, they continue to monitor all.
Dreamer, she was showing ankles. Hey, Nick. Nick. Look. Ankles, Nick. Oh, so scandalous. And Nick. Nick. Hang on, Nick. I got something else for you, Nick. I got something else for you. I got a musket too, Nick. I've got a musket. What do you think? Huh? Nick, I've got a musket and ankles. What do you think, chat? Do I have a chance? Not currently, Ting, but I can be convinced. Silver, I've had one. I've had one for decades. Not decades. My family has had it for decades. But I've had it for a while. I know, and yes, and Nick is incredibly loyal, and I would not want to. I wouldn't want to hurt Nick like that, but a cat girl can dream.
All these data brokers in case they get your information again, and then they tell them to quit selling it again. Buh! You can actually do all that yourself. Buh! I mean, yeah, you could. You could also wire your own house and grow your own food, but at some point it becomes more cost and time effective to just let the professionals do their job, and plus, they'll probably do a better job to begin with. I mean, here's the results they got from me. They reviewed over 18,000 listings from over 180 different data brokers and gotten over 3,000 listings removed almost every single month. And to be honest, I have absolutely no idea how long that would have taken me to do it if I decided to do it myself, but I'm 100% sure I would rather just pay Delete Me like $6 a month to do it for me. So if you're like me and you wanted to give Delete Me a try, I'm gonna have a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, our story begins with John Pemberton, a man that received his medical degree at the age of 19 years old, who would later go on to be a colonel in the Civil War and receive a saber wound at the Battle of Columbus and subsequently get addicted to morphine. Being a doctor, John realized that being addicted to morphine was not ideal, so he needed to find an alternative, and the one thing he found that worked was a cola wine called Vin Mariani. Now, Coca wine at this point in time was a pretty popular product. It was exactly what it sounds like. It was wine mixed with coca leaves, and coca leaves is what you derive cocaine from. I know what you're wondering. How much party powder are we putting inside of this wine? Great question. Well, Vin Mariani, for example, was approximately 7.2 milligrams of cocaine per fluid ounce, and a bottle was about 25 ounces for about a total of 180 milligrams of Colombian nose torque.
Now,
why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
Again, milligrams not super helpful in trying to figure out how much yayo they're actually putting inside the wine, so I'll put it to you this way. The devil's dandruff is not just an illegal street drug, it is a medication that is used in the medical industry for certain medical procedures, and according to the standards of those procedures, the maximum dose that you should give someone is approximately 160 milligrams. And according to Google, the average recreational dose is approximately 30 to 70 milligrams, so it's safe to say they're putting a lot of Peruvian marching powder inside of the wine. And this apparently helped John Pemberton with his morphine addiction for obvious reasons.
So you may want to ask your doctor about
Coke.
a little bump.
So after a while, John...
God, what was... Wait.
reasons.
So you may want to ask your doctor about a little...
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Oh my God.
So after a while, John is like, you know what? I should make my own version of this. I should make an even better version. You know what this needs? It needs caffeine in it as well.
I will not make garbage. We will produce a chemically pure and stable product that performs as advertised.
So he essentially makes a knockoff of Vin Mariani's Coca wine and then adds cola nuts to get caffeine in there as well. And his recipe has about 40 milligrams of caffeine and about 9 milligrams of nose beer. Coca leaves, coca, cola nuts, cola. This is where we get Coca-Cola from.
Makes sense now.
So he brings Coca-Cola to market, marketing it as a medication in 1866, and within a matter of months, the county that he resides in, Fulton County out of Atlanta, passes a temperance legislation that they are going to ban alcohol, so he can no longer have wine inside of Coca-Cola, so he has to switch over and changes it to carbonated water. The problem is, taking the wine out and adding carbonated water makes the entire thing taste like crap, and nobody's going to want to drink it, so he adds a shit ton of sugar.
Sugar.
More. So we've got Coca, carbonated, and caffeine, and sugar. Well, this is gonna fire up the people drinking it.
So he takes that to market and starts selling that as an over-the-counter medication to treat general exhaustion and headaches, because apparently it's hard to have a headache when you can't feel your face. So he sells that for a couple of years, and then he is diagnosed with an aggressive form of stomach cancer that rapidly brings about the end of his life. But right before his passing, he determines that his son does not want to take over the family business, so he sells it to a local Atlanta pharmacist by the name of Asa Chandler for approximately $300, which is about 10 grand today.
Damn good deal.
Now, when Asa takes over the company, they are not making a lot of money. They're not selling a whole lot. That's why it was sold for such a low price. But he gets to marketing right away. He uses his pharmacy. He reaches out to all of his pharmacist buddies, gets the names and addresses of every single person that's getting any type of medication, and just starts sending them coupons for a free sample of Coca-Cola. And he does this in the hope that it would bring about a...
The first one's always free, chat. Oh, shit. They were doing the gangster shit way back then. I wonder if this is where they got the idea. Huh?
new wave of lifelong customers to Coca-Cola, and it was definitely him operating on blind hope and faith, not him being a pharmacist knowing for a fact that he was giving out coupons for free caffeine and cocaine-laced sugar water. So obviously that went great, got a whole new wave of customers, at which point he realizes, you know what, I'm gonna quit marketing this as an over-the-counter medication, and I'm gonna start marketing it as like a daily soft drink that anybody can drink just whenever they want as a refreshment. You know, a little pick-me-up.
A little bump.
Now, to be fair, this is not
God.
unique. There's like 50 other products on the shelf at this point in time, all basically the same exact thing. The difference is Asa Chandler decides that he's going to take a bunch of his profits
Yeah.
and he's going to use that in marketing. There's banners, billboards, magazine ads. They're all over the place.
Oh,
and then
wow.
since he's now a soft drink and not a medication, he doesn't actually have to market all the ingredients in his product, and he just kind of like conglomerates all of the secret recipe and labels it as Merchandise 7X, and it becomes Coca-Cola's secret recipe, which also
Oh my God. Is Coca-Cola right for you? Like, wait, Pepsi had morphine in it? Was this, okay. Do you know if that happened before or after Coca-Cola? Because I could very easily see Pepsi doing that in response to what Coke did. Like, okay, Coke is putting coca leaves in there. Someone knew about it. Yeah. So someone at Pepsi, my guess, someone at Pepsi knew about what was in Coca-Cola, and they said, okay, we've got to do something similar. And they said, fuck it, we're putting in morphine. Well, that's the thing, you dreamer. I don't know. That's why I said guess, because I don't know. Wait. Yeah, your dog, yeah, technically they were kind of doing a good for you health crap kind of thing. You're right. Ping, I don't know. I like KFC fine, but I'm fine without it too. So I'm guessing KFC's herbs and spices do not include crack. Honest, I hate to burst your bubble there.
helps with marketing because you get to say, I have a secret recipe and nobody else is like us. Everybody wants our secret recipe.
The most important ingredient of all, 4 heaping pounds of freshly ground. I warned you.
And in doing that, Coca-Cola becomes the name brand popular version of all these products, and that's the one that succeeds the most. So by the 1890s, things are going great for Coca-Cola, and then in 1895, they revolutionized marketing by coming out with a new marketing campaign known as the Coca-Cola Girls. Basically, they figured, you know what would go great with our party powder drink? Attractive females. This is one of the first cases of sex cells ever used. Now to us...
Actually, hey up, let me... Just so you guys can fully appreciate the gloriousness of the Coca-Cola Girls. Notice, chat, what was considered beauty back in this day. These girls were considered beautiful, and they're not stick figures, are they? This is back when full-figured women were considered beautiful. How things have changed. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely she's beautiful. I'm talking about, like, colloquially.
Attractive females. This is one of the first cases of sex cells ever used. Now to us, this seems obvious, but this is like the first time this has ever happened. So at the time, this was like a stroke of genius that would go on to become one of the standards of marketing for the rest of...
We got the sex and the drugs, where is the rock and roll?
I think it's a bit too early. I think the rock and roll comes about 10 years later, if I'm remembering the timeline correctly.
Forever. And from here, they just keep going. They just keep putting more and more of their profits back into marketing. When radio becomes popular, they've got ads all over the radio. When TV becomes popular, they've got ads all over the TV. They start working with actors and famous athletes. Coca-Cola is absolutely everywhere. But then they experience kind of a setback because by the early 1900s, the United States government is really cracking down on... I'm running out of euphemisms for cocaine. Nose candy. They're really cracking down on nose candy. And this, in large part, is...
Nick never watched Deadpool and Wolverine, did he? They threw out a whole bunch of great euphemisms for it.
kind of fueled by racism. There's literally a New York Times article that I'm not even going to read the title of that goes on to claim that when a black man takes cocaine, he becomes impervious to bullets. I'm not joking. Here's the article. So now Coca-Cola's got to take.
Wait, we're going to read it.
Bullets. I'm not joking. Here's the.
Bullets fired into vital parts that would drop a sane man in his tracks failed to check the fiend, failed to stop his rush or weaken his attack. Which is not limited to any specific ethnicity. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's not going to be limited to an ethnicity. Let's see. Yeah, like he has blurred out the racist words. He has. Basically that yeah, it's the method of preventing shock and anesthetized patients by use of that preparation was described in the column. Similar verification against this condition seems to be produced in the cocaine-sniffing, very racist word. Recent experience of Chief of Police Learley of Asheville, North Carolina, illustrates this particular phase of cocainism. The chief was informed that a hitherto inoffensive, racist word, with whom he was well acquainted, was, quote, running amok in a cocaine frenzy, had attempted to stab a storekeeper, and was at the moment engaged in beating up the various members of his own household, being fully aware of the respect that the racist word has for brass buttons, and it continues on from there. I know, but I appreciate that, Dragon. I'm being cautious. And Bogeties, thank you for 5 gifted.
The article. So now Coca-Cola's got to take the booger sugar out of the secret recipe, but guess what? So does everybody else. So Coca-Cola isn't really affected, and they remain the dominant actor in the soft drink arena.
I am invincible!
So by the 1920s, they're crushing it. They've got the entire market on lock, and they're like, who do we target next? Let's target kids. If we get them hooked while they're young, while their brains are still malleable and squishy, we'll have lifelong customers. So by the 1920s, they start associating themselves with Santa Claus. Now, fast forward like 20 years, all the kids that grew.
And it still works. Chat, you want to know how good this works? How this kind of marketing works? How many of you have seen the CGI polar bear Coca-Cola commercials from years gone by? How many of you seen those? I'm guessing many of you have. Okay, quick question for you. When you watch those commercials and you see the polar bears, either the adult polar bears or the kids polar bears, drinking the bottles of Coca-Cola, how many of you, and here's the key part, how many of you, when you hear the sound of them drinking, the Coke sloshing in the bottle, and then sort of like the lip smacking that the polar bears make after drinking the Coca-Cola, how many of you, after hearing those sounds, are thinking, I could use a Coke? Hearing that, like, the Coke moving in the bottle, you can kind of hear them swallowing, and then when they finish drinking, you can hear the polar bears go. And you think, yeah, I could go for a Coke right now. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because it works. Think about that.
Grew up on Coca-Cola and Santa Claus are now getting involved in World War II and have to get shipped off to war, and at this point in time, Coca-Cola is all over the planet, including Germany. Coca-Cola is literally Adolf Hitler's favorite drink at this point in time. But after Pearl Harbor and Germany declares war on the United States of America, obviously America is no longer going to be doing trade with Nazi Germany, so Germany can no longer get Coca-Cola. I don't know what you're thinking. If there's already Coca-Cola plants in Germany, why can't Germany just seize the Coca-Cola plants and continue making their own version of Coca-Cola? Well, because the way this works is the raw condensed syrup that makes up Coca-Cola when added with carbonated water is all made in the United States, and then it is shipped all over the world to bottling plants where they mix it with the carbonated water and bottle it. So they actually don't know how to make the concentrated syrup because it's a secret recipe. So once they cut off the supply of concentrated syrup, they can no longer make Coca-Cola. So these bottling plants in Germany need to come up with their own version of Coca-Cola, and they don't know what they're doing, so they just start using a bunch of food waste, like extra fiber and stuff left over from fruit, and they end up making a fruitier version of Coca-Cola that ends up being called Fanta, and this is where Fanta comes from. Now, back on the American front.
Oh my God, so the bad Germans created Fanta. Okay, chat. Quick question. How many of you, after he just mentioned that, in your heads, heard wanna Santa, wanna Santa? How many of you just heard that song in your head when he mentioned it? Huh? Stop. Why, Tanashi, is it bad that I go wanna Santa, wanna Santa? You never heard that commercial, machinist? Oh my God. No, Watanashi. I've set up a very nice condo there and I'm not leaving. Okay, I usually don't do this during Nick's video.
Invasion of the Fantanas.
Checking in can take its toll. Check out Fanta, nice and cold.
Where on earth will they show up next? If you're not having fun, they'll find you.
Waiting for your chance to scream. Fanta helps you beat the
There's my
steam.
station, chat. Snodgrass Landing. My station is called Snodgrass Landing. Oh, I might or I might not. I'll see. If I get bonked for it, then I'll edit it. But that's an old ass commercial. They may or may not do it. Try and get rid of that earworm, chat.
They're starting to ration things, and one of the biggest things that gets rationed is sugar. So Coca-Cola ends up, paying a bunch of politicians and then going over to these rationing boards and are like, hey, Coca-Cola is essential. You can't cut our sugar ration. And thanks to paying off politicians and also everybody loving Coca-Cola at this point in time, the government agrees. So Coca-Cola is allowed to keep putting just as much sugar into their drink as they always have. And most other brands are forced to cut back on the sugar, making Coca-Cola by far and away the best soda around.
Sugar! Need sugar!
Hey, they're not riding the white horse anymore.
And then Coca-Cola has a stroke of genius. I don't know if they intended it to work out this way, but it did. They basically come out and say, hey, we support the American troops. We're going to guarantee that any American service member, no matter where they are in the world, can get themselves a cold Coca-Cola for the same 5 cents. We are literally willing to lose money on every single soda if it means getting these guys a taste of home. Now, Coca-Cola is supporting the troops. The American people love it. The government loves it.
Yeah, I mean, that is fucking genius marketing right there. Absolutely fucking genius. I mean, and we've seen it work today. We've absolutely, well, okay. By this point, I think they were saying that by this point they'd remove the cocoa leaves from the equation. So at this point, it's just like a shit ton of sugar. But the fact that they're like they're basically boasting, hey, we're gonna get our boys overseas fighting the war a taste of home. And no other drink company is doing that. Yeah, it's fucking genius marketing. It would make them like, the whole world is seeing that the Coca-Cola company loves the troops, and they're sending boatloads of product so they know what they remember what they're fighting for. I'm not sure how much of a logistical flex it was, Revan. Like, you made sure that they got it to them, and they made sure. I'm not sure how much of a logistical flex it was. It's, a simple matter of like taking some crates of it and throwing it on a supply truck and bringing it out to the troops. I don't know how much of a logistical flex that might be, but it's still like genius fucking marketing.
And Coca-Cola approaches the government and is like, hey, it's getting awfully expensive getting Coca-Cola all the way around the planet in the Pacific theater and the European theater. How would you guys feel about helping fund us build some more bottling plants out in more remote locations? So the US government and taxpayers essentially fund the building of 65 Coca-Cola.
Okay, but Zep, that's kind of what I'm saying is they just like, they ship it to the non-combat areas that are facilitating supplies, and they just basically throw the crates onto the supply trucks. So I mean, it's like there's some logistical goodness there, but I don't consider it a logistical flex. It's not like the logistical flexes that we've seen with some of other Nick's videos. It's, exactly. They're just piggybacking off of the military's existing logistics. So this is not a logistical flex on Coca-Cola's part. They're just basically adding a crate or two of it to the existing supplies. Well, it's honestly, Zeb, they probably weren't. We saw the size of those Coca-Cola crates. It's probably not. They probably didn't need too much spare room to get a couple of crates of Coke when they're running supplies out to a field company or something. Realistically speaking, yeah, it's not like the BK stuff.
So the US government and taxpayers essentially fund the building of 65 Coca-Cola bottling plants all over the world. Now, this does several things. A, it galvanizes the support of this entire generation that they now love Coca-Cola because it was the one thing they got to taste when they were away from home for 4 years fighting in World War II. And two, it exposes the rest of the world to Coca-Cola because now the American troops are drinking it and they're giving it out to all these other civilians and all these other territories that they're occupying, giving it even further reach all over the planet. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that Coca-Cola has just convinced the American taxpayer to fund their global expansion while the United States military turns into the biggest sales force on the planet. So, World War II.
And delivery system. I'm surprised you didn't bring that up. Not only is the military the biggest sales force for Coke, it's also the biggest delivery system. Because the Coke was going from these plants in these other countries and getting delivered to these troops, who the troops were then disseminating to the people. So it's sales and delivery. Both.
Who ends, Coca-Cola resumes control of all the bottling plants that were captured by Nazi Germany, and now they have a new popular soda known as Fanta. On top of that, they're more popular than ever. They are galvanized with the greatest generation because Coca-Cola was the official soda of World War II. Time passes. By the 1950s, 1960s, studies are coming out saying like, hey, maybe drinking caffeinated sugar water is bad for you if you're drinking 12 of these things a day. So Coca-Cola wanted to kind of pivot a little bit. It's like, okay, well, we should get into the healthier drink market. What's something healthy?
Diet.
Fruit juice. What's that super popular brand that was developed in World War II to help soldiers get vitamin C? Minute Maid. They buy out Minute Maid, and now they own that too. And this is where the psyop really begins because as time passes, it becomes more and more apparent that soda actually is not.
Becky, I'm drinking Canada Dry, which is a Coca-Cola product also. So I'm drinking a Coca-Cola product myself right now.
That healthy for you. And because of that, the rules on how you're allowed to market and what you're allowed to say get more and more strict, particularly in marketing to children. So Coca-Cola's like, fuck it, I'm gonna find a loophole. We're just gonna spend $750 million and we're gonna buy out Columbia Pictures in 1982. And then all the movies that come out of this major production studio are all gonna feature Coca-Cola.
Wait. What do you mean it's not? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Canito? What's not? What did I miss? Yeah. Yeah, like Pepsi has basically been following suit behind Coca-Cola since its existence, honestly. It kind of is. Oh, that's what you were talking about, Kaneda. Okay.
Too. And then all the movies that come out of this major production studio are all going to feature Coca-Cola in subliminal advertisements. Okay, you think it was a coincidence that Ralph Macchio was drinking Minute Maid at breakfast with his mom, and then when he's training in the kitchen with Mr. Miyagi, he's drinking an ice cold Sprite, also a Coca-Cola product? Absolutely not. It's actually documented that Ralph Macchio was mad at how much product placement that Coca-Cola was making him do in that movie, so he tried to conceal the fact that he was drinking a Sprite, and Coca-Cola and the studio made him refilm that scene and show the Sprite for a certain amount of time in that particular scene. You think it was a coincidence that Ghostbusters and Coca-Cola marketed so hard together that if you drank enough Coca-Cola, you could literally win the Ghostbusters mobile? Absolutely not. The entire thing, all of the movies that...
And if you drank enough Coca-Cola, you'd start seeing ghosts too. Or maybe become one yourself. That's one hell of marketing. Drink that shit ton of Coca-Cola. You can become a ghost that the Ghostbusters will come after.
That came out in the 1980s
and it's Ecto one, not the Ghostbusters mobile.
Was one giant psyop to get you to drink Coca-Cola. It was so well known in Hollywood that Clint Eastwood refused to have any Coca-Cola products in any of his movies because he was mad that they cast Ralph Macchio as the Karate Kid and not his son.
Idiots.
And the marketing doesn't just stop there, right? They are targeting kids all over the place. Officially, according to their policy, they don't market to anybody under the age of 13, which you can make an argument for with movies. However, I don't think you can really make an argument for that when you're putting your branding on a bunch of toys all over the toy section, right? They're on trucks, they're on Barbie dolls, they've got game cell phone apps, they're sponsoring kids' sports teams, they're all over amusement parks, they're absolutely everywhere. This psyop is so...
But they don't have a video game called Pepsi Man. That was reviewed by James Rolfe. That's one thing they don't have. I can't remember if Coke ever actually did come out with a video game, but it wasn't Pepsi Man. They didn't have. No, rather than it's Gatorade. Like Pepsi made Powerade. I think it was mentioned earlier in chat. Pepsi made Powerade as a competition for Gatorade. So Pepsi is the competitor. Powerade is the competitor to Gatorade. Wait. Coke made Powerade? Who made Gatorade? Who is it that made Gatorade then? Am I getting my companies confused? Oh, Pepsi made Gatorade. I did it. You can't see it, but I'm doing the crossed arms thing, pointing in two different directions. Okay. So Pepsi made Gatorade and Coke made Power. So Powerade, so Coke did the competitor. Now, quick poll chat. Which is better, Gatorade or Powerade? Which do we prefer, Gatorade or Powerade? I personally, now I don't know if it's changed. It's been a while since I've had Gatorade or Powerade. One thing I did like at it was Powerade used to have, particularly the cherry, the red Powerade, which I think was Fruit Punch. Powerade had a little tiny bit of a bite to it when you drank it that I liked better than Gatorade. Like when you drank when you had Powerade, there was like a little bit of a bite to the taste of Powerade that Gatorade didn't have, and I kind of like Powerade better. Gatorade's fine, but the Powerade, that little nip I liked.
So effective, it literally changed the global perception of polar bears. Okay, polar bears are not friendly, cuddly animals that run around the Arctic chugging Coca-Cola. Polar bears are one of the most dangerous apex predators on the planet and one of the only animals known to actively hunt people. Buh!
Yep.
You're exaggerating. It's not that big of a deal. Buh! No, I'm not, and I can prove it, okay? Because by the 1980s, Coca-Cola and Pepsi were like at the pinnacle of their competition. They had just had their race to the bottom to see who could offer the product the absolute cheapest. And then a lot of people think they engaged in price fixing because they had a meeting behind closed doors, allegedly. And after that meeting, they both decided to take their products back to the normal price and just compete with normal marketing tactics. And what Pepsi did is they had the brilliant idea that they were just going to compete on taste. What they did is they had a bunch of blind taste test studies, and those studies showed that when you didn't know what the branding was, more people preferred Pepsi than any other flavor. Coca-Cola immediately fired back saying that's not true, that's a lie. They then conducted their own blind taste test studies, and holy shit, that wasn't a lie. People actually do prefer the taste of Pepsi. So Coca-Cola went ahead and developed a new flavor that outcompeted the original Coca-Cola and Pepsi in the blind taste test trials, and then they launched the new Coke. And when Coca-Cola discontinued the original Coke and had their new flavor of Coke come out that was supposed to be better in every single way, people were absolutely fucking pissed. The psyop was so effective over generations that it
and thus brought about the return of Coke Classic and Coke 2, or New Coke, went away and was never heard from again. But yeah, like, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. When they brought back Coke Classic, wasn't it the same fucking formula that was in Coke 2? Didn't they basically just take Coke 2, take the formula, put it back into Coke Classic, and it was the same formula, but because it was the Coke Classic, people were like, okay, this is better. We like the original Coke, but it's the taste of Coke 2. That's what I thought it was. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it was the labeling. People didn't like, oh, it's a new Coke, and yeah, it was basically the placebo effect. Except it was visual instead of consumption. Yeah.
It convinced people that Coca-Cola wasn't just a product that could be improved upon. No, Coca-Cola was Coca-Cola. It was a fixture in the American community. It was literally like a family relative, and you can't mess with it, okay? It would be like if a scientist was like, hey, you know your cousin Jimmy? Great news. I've invented a new Jimmy that's better in every way. And you're like, that's great, but where the fuck is Jimmy? That motherfucker's not Jimmy.
I am telling you right now.
Oh, this woman.
That mother back there is not real.
So Coca-Cola just takes an absolute beating in the marketplace, okay? People are furious that they've changed Coca-Cola. So eventually they revert back, and it's a huge PR thing. Like, they finally brought Coca-Cola back, and their sales absolutely skyrocket. Which almost makes you wonder if the entire thing was planned. And if it was, it would be the greatest marketing ploy of all time, but we can't prove that. But what it does prove is that Coca-Cola's marketing psyop over the course of generations was so outrageously effective that they could literally give the customer a better product in every way for the exact same price. And not only would the customers still prefer the original Coca-Cola, they would demand it. And you can see it again with the secret recipe.
Wait, but he's not saying it. I thought that the new better flavor that they put in a Coke 2 was used in Coke Classic. And then they just did away with the whole Coke 2 thing, and it was just Coke Classic, but it was the new formula. He's not mentioning that. Isn't that what happened? That they just basically took the new formula from Coke 2, and they put it in a Coke Classic, made Coke but it's not provable. Maybe that's why he's not saying it. Okay. Zed? Because we believe everything Google says. It was not reusing Coke Classic. Okay. So, it's okay, so it's a rumor. Fair. Okay, so it's a rumor that they just did that. Okay. I mean, obviously I never had the original Coke before Coke 2 came out, and then they did Coke Classic, so I have no basis for comparison. I know. Chat, were any of you around when the original Coke was about, and then Coke 2 came out? And would you be able to tell me if the original Coke tastes like the original, if Coke Classic tastes like the original Coke versus the Coke 2? Anybody in chat can confirm or deny? 'Cause I can't. Reve, don't age, mate. You did, and you didn't like the new Coke. Okay, Xanax, fair. So when they did Coke Classic, the taste was the same as original Coke? I'm thinking Coke 2 came out in the 80s? I think Nick mentioned it, but I can't remember. Okay. 85. Thank you, Atashi. Okay, so Xanax, I will take your word for it as the one person so far that in this, in my chat that was around for when Coke 2, and then Coke Classic came out. I will take your word that Coke Classic tastes like the original Coke. I will take your word for that.
The secret recipe is not secret. It's literally on Wikipedia. Yet Coca-Cola still has this like fancy ass vault with a palm scanner and an eye reader and like smoke and red lights and mist showing off where they hide the secret recipe. Everybody knows what the secret recipe is. All you got to do is Google it. It's right there for the taking, but nobody cares because it's still Coca-Cola. You could literally open up your own soda shop today with the exact same product as Coca-Cola. And guess what? Nobody's going to drink your shit because you're not Coca-Cola. You're not Cousin Jimmy. You're not a member of the family. You haven't been psyoped into existence for the last 4 generations. Also, that's not true. You can't just recreate Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola has an exclusive deal with the Stefan Company, which is the only company allowed by the DEA to import coca leaves and de-cocainify them. So you wouldn't be allowed to get de-cocained coca leaves to put in your drink anyways. But my point still stands. Even if we lived in magical fairy tale land where you could get the coca leaves and you could somehow make the exact same product and somehow magically sell it for the exact same price despite Coca-Cola's overwhelming manufacturing and distribution capabilities, you would still fail outrageously for no reason other than the fact you're not Coca-Cola because they have the greatest psyop of all time on their side.
And that's where it is. There is the ever-loving point. Because it's not in that bottle or can that's got that bright red color, the eyes can deceive. And so if you, when you drink a Coke and you enjoy the flavor of Coke, your eyes automatically, they see the red can and associate red can means good taste. And so if you see the Pepsi can, that's blue. And you go, that is not red can. I say not red can, so I say that's not going to, I say this will not taste as good. You want can that looks red. That's why some of these cola companies will have red cans because they're trying to trick the consumer. Red can, just as good as Coke. Sometimes it may work, sometimes it doesn't work. More often than not, it doesn't work. But again, it's the marketing. It's the marketing. And as Nick said, it's a great fucking psyop.
And they will always win because of it. And we know this because there's been multiple times throughout history, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, there's always somebody coming forward saying, we found...
Sorry, Nick. Kevin, quick question for you. Kevin, what color is the label on Nuka-Cola? Ting, what color is the label on Nuka-Cola? What color? My point? Exactly.
Of all time on their side, and they will always win because of it. And we know this because there's been multiple times throughout history, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, there's always somebody coming forward saying, we found Coke's secret recipe in some old document that we found in an auction house and blah, 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 blah. And every single time Coca-Cola just comes out and says, that's not the secret recipe. Nuh-uh. Is it the recipe that makes up Coca-Cola? Yeah, it absolutely is. But it's not the secret recipe because the secret recipe is not the chemicals and the oils and the coca leaves that Coca-Cola puts inside of their drink. The secret recipe is the marketing itself. The marketing that has gone on for generations and was so outrageously effective that it went from marketing into a psychological operation. That is the secret recipe of Coca-Cola, not the ingredients inside of it. And you want to know who knows this? Pepsi knows this because there was a disgruntled Coca-Cola employee that got a hold of executives over at Pepsi and offered to sell them Coca-Cola's secret recipe, but
I saw that I think this was like a meme or something I saw this. Nick, I'm going to spoil this for you. A Coca-Cola employee took the recipe, tried to run it to Pepsi. Pepsi turned this woman into Coca-Cola, and she got arrested.
Executives over at Pepsi and offered to sell them Coca-Cola's secret recipe, but Pepsi realizes that it's not what makes up Coca-Cola. It's Coca-Cola's marketing and psyop itself that is a secret recipe. So instead of trying to buy the ingredient list that goes into Coke, they turn that motherfucker over to the FBI.
Yep.
So yeah, in conclusion, Coca-Cola has the most successful marketing of all time. I don't know where the line is that separates marketing and psychological operation, but I feel fairly certain in saying Coca-Cola passed it a while ago. Coca-Cola's marketing is so good, they literally took a Confederate colonel's recipe for his medication to help him overcome his morphine addiction and turned it into the most recognizable beverage and one of the most recognizable brands, period, on the planet. Branding that was so successful that it transcended being a product and it became its own entity, meaning that if you were to actually try to change it, you would be fundamentally changing what that product itself was. And in that, there's never been a better demonstration of how overwhelmingly effective just marketing can be. Marketing can be so effective that it is the secret recipe. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. All right, time to start the stopwatch and see how long it takes for me to get a cease and desist.
Well, if you do, Nick, you'll be in good company.
Amber, have you been to World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta? It's pretty cool to see the secret vault and to taste the Cokes from around the world.
I have not, Revan. I've never been to Atlanta, unfortunately. So, I have not. Whoops, wrong button. Maybe one day I will, but I have not. So, oh well. Maybe one day.